Repeat after me. There is a beautiful lake in the mountains. We use there is, there are construction when we describe a place and when we need to say what things, what objects are in the place. For example, there is a beautiful lake in the mountains. A beautiful lake is an object. In the mountains is the place. There are two ways how you can put there is, there are construction in a sentence. Variant number 1. First, you say there is or there are. After that, you name the object. You speak about what? A beautiful lake. And number 3 in the sentence is the place. Where? In the mountains. For example, there is a beautiful lake in the mountains. 1. There is. 2. A beautiful lake. 3. In the mountains. The second way of using there is, there are in a sentence is when you start with a place. Number 1. Where? In the mountains. Second position is there is. And position number 3 is an object. What? A beautiful lake. In the mountains, there is a beautiful lake. Repeat after me. There is a car near the house. The car is near the house. So we use there is, there are construction when the object in a sentence is indefinite, not concrete, uncertain, and it's always used with the indefinite article a or an. Once again, repeat after me. There is a car near the house. When we need to speak about some concrete, some definite object, we need to use the definite article there, and we don't use there is, there are construction. We use a usual 1, 2, 3 structure in a sentence. For example, the car is near the house. Number 1, the car. Number 2, is. Number 3, near the house. Repeat after me. There is a car near the house. There are some cars near the house. When the noun is in the singular, a car, we use there is construction. There is a car near the house. When the noun is in the plural, cars, we use there are. There are some cars near the house. We usually use the pronoun some when we speak about several objects. There are some cars near the house. But if we don't use the pronoun some, it means that we want to show that we speak about exactly cars, not bikes, not motorbikes, but only cars. And we want to make this idea clear. There are cars near the house. Sometimes we need to speak about different objects in one place. For example, there is a car, 2 bikes, and a red bus near the house. Or, there are 2 bikes, a car, and a red bus near the house. So when do we use is or are? When the first object in line is in the singular, we say there is. There is a car, 2 bikes, and a red bus near the house. When the first object in line is in the plural, we say there are. There are 2 bikes, a car, and a red bus near the house. Repeat after me. There is a church in the city center. Is there a church in the city center? To make a question, put the verb to be before there. Is there a church in the city center? There are some good shops on that street. Are there any good shops on that street? In questions, some turns into any. Are there any good shops on that street? To make the negative form, we use not. Repeat after me. There is not a church in the city center. Or the short form isn't. There isn't a church in the city center. Sometimes instead of a, we say any. There isn't any church in the city center. The negative form for the plural are not. Repeat after me. There are not any good shops on that street. And the short form aren't. There aren't any good shops on that street. In the negative form, some turns into any. There are not any good shops on that street. Or, there aren't any good shops on that street. We often use no instead of not in there is, there are constructions. For example, there is not a church in the city center. There is no church in the city center. There are not any good shops in that street. There are no good shops in that street. When we use no, we don't use articles and we don't use the pronoun any. There is no church in the city center. There are no good shops in that street. Sometimes a sentence with there is, there are doesn't have number 3, doesn't have the place. It happens when we know exactly what place we're talking about and we don't need to speak about that in a sentence. When we all understand what place we are talking about. For example, this place is very busy. There are always so many people. So we understand what place we are speaking about. And we have number 1, there are. We have number 2, what, the object, so many people. But we don't have number 3. We are not speaking about the place here. There are always so many people.